Hey guys, hanging out in Fullerton with my buddy Sam Townsend from the Electric Bicycle Center.
Yeah.
And we've got two of these Fantic Gravel-X e-bikes. Now this is a really unique bike because it's a 29er, kind of a mountain bike setup here, hardtail, with drop bars. They're slightly wider, really nice soft gel grip tape. It's an interesting setup because according to Steffi Bao, one of the reps for Fantic, it's designed to get you to work if you want to, you know, aerodynamic, have fun pedaling. It does pedal really well. I've been able to top the assisted speed of 20 miles per hour pretty easily here. But at the same time, on the way home, you could cut across some dirt paths and go mountain biking. That's why I've got my full face on, because we're gonna actually go ride later and I wanna get some third-person shots and, you know, see what Sam looks like on this. I'm 135 pounds and the motor is giving me plenty of assistance. This is the Brose T for trekking or touring, offers up to a peak of 90 Newton meters of torque, but it probably hovers closer to 80. Brose does have a newer motor, that's the Brose S. It's a little bit more efficient, a little bit lighter weight. This is about 6.6 pounds. Still very quiet. It has like a carbon belt drive inside. It's really compact, kind of angled up like this, shortens the chainstay length. Really good ground clearance here. It blends right into the bike. The battery, not so much. It stands out a little bit, but it's kind of a proud design here. I think it looks nice because it's branded as Fantic, and this is like a proprietary casing that they set up. Brose does leave it to manufacturers, and you'll see like some Bulls bikes and some other brands where they actually put the battery inside the down tube or position it in different ways. So that's what Fantic chose, which makes it really easy to get off, carry around, charge separately, replace a little bit easier. You actually have to kind of plug the battery into the motor each time, and there's a magnetic plug. It uses the Rosenberger standard, which is kind of interesting. And you do have to power the battery on before you can activate the display each time. So it's a two-step process with Brose, at least for this generation of motors. This is like 36.5 volts and I think like 11.4 amp hours. Lithium ion cells in there, known for being reliable, long-lasting, relatively lightweight. About 6.1 pounds on that battery pack. And again, the weight just positioned really well, low and center on the frame, right there near the motor. And then they've used the standard like Brose classic display. I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but I wanna just do another walk around here and talk about this frame. So it's hydroformed aluminum alloy. It only comes in this red color, but it does come in 4 different frame sizes, so you can get a really nice fit. Sort of an angled top tube, keeps the standover height a little bit low, but the bike feels very stiff and responsive. Love that they squeezed on bottle cage bosses right there. Even if you can't actually fit, you know, the really tall bottles, you could still put like a folding lock there and use it in the commuting scenario I was talking about. And then we've got some bosses back here near the dropouts, so you could potentially do a rack. And a lot of times, you know, you can connect right here to the seat post clamp or maybe another adapter as a support strut. But these are 29er tires, 29 by 2.20, so they're high volume and they're tall. It lifts the bike up, it gives you a lower angle of attack so you can just roll right over imperfections on the trail. Kind of a preference of a lot of my friends who mountain bike frequently. They seem to like the 29ers. And for a taller person as well, it sort of fits your body height. It looks a little bit more natural. Like you look at Sam over there, you know, you're like 6'2", right? 6'4". Oh my gosh, yeah. So the bike, it fits that type of rider pretty well. And then someone like me, again, I'm 5'9", this still feels really comfortable and smooth, and that extra air volume provides some cushion in addition to these knobbier tires. And then I think this is actually running Boost. So in the front, this definitely says Boost when I was exploring the fork here. I was surprised to see that because I'm used to seeing Boost with plus size tires, but maybe since this is such a tall tire and it has a relatively high air volume, again 2.2 millimeters on the width there, they thought, okay, well, Boost, we might as well go with 110 millimeter hub spacing instead of 100, and that'll give us a stronger bracing angle on the spokes. 32 of those spokes, 14 gauge, so there's a little bit of flex, keeps it lightweight. Love the rims. They're Fantic branded, but these are made in Italy. A lot of this, the componentry here is nicer than what I'm used to seeing. It says Gepemi, made in Italy. I've recorded all the stats back at the website, but I did want to call out this little reflective mark here, and then the reinforcement eyelets. I just feel like, you know, these are nice wheels, and that's a 15 millimeter through axle with a Maxwell quick release up front if you have to do some trail maintenance or break this down to fit into a car, or maybe, you know, a bike rack that hangs off the back of your car or in a truck bed a lot of times. So very nice. And then back here we have 12 millimeter threaded axle with, I think it's like a 6 millimeter hex, so there's no quick release in the rear. But the wheels, same thing, pretty nice. And then the branding on the tires says Vittoria Seguaro, so, you know, new tire for me. These are Presta valves, and they've got the little metal nut on there. It's just a really beautiful setup. SRAM hydraulic disc brakes, 160 in the rear with an Avid rotor, 180 up front. These are both dual piston calipers. A little bit larger in the front. That's going to give you an increased stopping power and a good mechanical advantage over these larger tires. I think they definitely went with the right decision up here. I feel like they could actually have 180s on both, but they've been stopping me just fine. And then we've got the hoods up here. We've got the SRAM Apex levers. And again, set up kind of like a road bike where you have paddle shifter over here. So you do like one click and it goes into a higher gear, and then a long click that goes into a lower gear. And back here, we've got 11 sprockets, 11 to 42 teeth, and then a 36 tooth chainring up here with narrow wide teeth pattern. So rather than having like a metal guide or something that might add some weight, they've just used narrow wide to keep that chain on track. And then we've got a long slap guard. So I don't feel like this is gonna drop off inward. It could potentially drop off outward, but it's a pretty good setup. I haven't done a whole lot of off-roading yet, but I expect that to perform pretty well. And then maybe there's a little bit of wiggle room here to go with a larger sprocket if you want to make it a little bit like higher speed potential, over 20 miles per hour, or you could go with a smaller sprocket. It just feels like there's more that you can do, but keep in mind you are going to be limited by that plastic bezel right there if you try to go too much larger. The pedals are FPD. They're just the aluminum alloy platform, cage style. I think that's like a good walk around, and maybe there's a plastic skid plate on the front of the motor casing right there. The wires are fairly accessible beneath the down tube, so if you need to do some maintenance or whatever. I like that the brakes are hydraulic as well versus mechanical. They just feel really smooth. Both of them actuate without, you know, too much force. Sometimes when you've got a mechanical cable going all the way back to the rear of the bike, the right brake in America takes more hand strength. And I like how this is set up. You can change hands positions, give yourself a brake, go really aero, or get up high if you need to, maybe you're balancing or something. It's a good setup all around. And then back to the suspension fork, 100 millimeters of travel. It's an air fork, so you can sag it. It's relatively lightweight. It has a compression clicker with full lockout. And then of course down here, we've got rebound adjust. So kind of everything you need to dial this in and actually have a good time mountain biking. This is a nice setup. It's high quality stuff. It is a little bit more expensive at $4,290, but it comes with a really good warranty. It's like 2-year comprehensive, 3 years on the battery. That's way above average. I'm used to hearing like 2 years on the battery. And then they have lifetime on the frame. So again, made in Italy. Tapered head tube, by the way, so you could swap out that fork if you want to for something even higher quality at some point, or maybe you could go with like a rigid fork and swap them back and forth. Loft has like the carbon fiber, like elastomer suspension forks that are really cool and even lighter than that, so that's cool. And then they've got that, you know, you could flip the stem to go a little bit more aero, and you've got 3 10mm spacers. There's like so much you could do with this bike. It gets my imagination going. And here are the keys. So it's like the circle lock style. We'll just stick this in for a second and then twist it. There we go. And kind of pull it out. So once we remount that, you just press in on the button and it locks it to the frame. It's a little bit tricky to do this, but let's see if I pull out the magnetic energy bus piece right there, slide up on this battery. There we go. So you got it. You can see beneath, it's got those like plastic fingers, quite a few of them. And then look at that, 4 bolts holding that onto the frame. So it's much sturdier, and probably rightly so for a mountain bike than a lot of kits and other things where there's only a couple or a few bolts. There's a 36.5 volts, 11.4 amp hours, 416.1 watt hours. It's always a trade-off between weight and range and stuff. And I feel like the Brose T motor in particular, it spends that energy very efficiently. We're just gonna set this in, and you can see the teeth kind of lining up. Fits in pretty easily, and then you press that button just like that. Get the magnet position back into place. And then here's the charger. I wanted to point this out. It's 1.3 pounds, relatively compact and lightweight. The wall side unplugs. There's the Rosenberger magnetic side. So, you know, if you're plugging the bike in and you trip over the cable, it won't knock the bike over. No kickstand, by the way, and no kickstand provision. So you know, you want to be careful with it. I noticed the front wheel wants to turn because it's got the extra weight and the bigger wheel. But the charger itself is very nice. If you set it down sometimes in the dirt or in your shop, it could pick up like iron filings. But to me, it's good, but it's 2 amp output, and for, you know, a 420 watt-hour battery, this is fine. So yeah, very, very cool. And basically it's ready to go, but again, 2-step process. So I'm press the button on the left side of the battery, and then that boots up the display. But before we get into the display, I want to call out that it's actually removable. So you can take this with you, and you know, if you do commute to work or something, people won't scratch it up, it won't get beat up, wet, like faded. Nice to have that. And then there's even, you know, I should just take this back off. There's a full-size USB port in the bottom, 5 volts, 500 milliamps. So you could have a Garmin or a phone or all kinds of different accessories, maybe a headlight like wired into that if you wanted to. This bike doesn't come with lights stock, but again, coming back to that commuting scenario, there's just so many possibilities. Pretty simple display. So right now we're kind of in 0 mode or walk mode. If I hold the arrow down, the motor would start going at about 6 kilometers per hour and just help push this forward. That's really great if you get a flat tire, or maybe you're walking through just an area you're not supposed to ride, or you're hanging out with a friend or something. Press the up button here. We go to cruise, tour, and sport for the highest power and the zippiest feel. But the interesting thing about Brose in particular is if you pedal gently, even with sport, it responds gently. It's one of the most natural feeling mid-drives in my opinion, and I really like that. Speed, miles per hour, 10 bars on that battery infographic, 10% increments, love that. And then there's trip average speed at the bottom. I'm pressing the circle button over here. Trip time, total miles, total time, clock, and then like nothing right here. It's kind of interesting. A lot of good feedback on this display. The menu button is kind of replicated over here on the side. So the buttons, it's interesting to have 2 menu buttons, but there's actually a reason. If you turn the bike off and then you hold menu and power simultaneously, I think you can switch from miles per hour to kilometers per hour. It's not the easiest display to adjust. I have a guide on that back in the forums, but you know, it does what it's supposed to. It's backlit, it looks pretty nice, it works well. So now that I've gone over like just about everything that I have to say about the bike, I wanted to, you know, connect with my buddy Sam here, because he's been carrying these guys for a little while. He's met Steffi, has some just, you know, perspective on this company. Sam, what do you think about Fantic?
You know, it's an Italian company, and if you want a bike not made in China, this is definitely an option. They actually have a rich heritage in the motorcycle industry, and these bikes are actually built in a motorcycle factory in Italy.
Wow.
I like the Ferrari red paint job too, kind of the connection with the
that's right.
Italiano.
Ferrari.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's neat to see a bike that's so custom, available in 4 different sizes, and then coming stateside, because they actually have a big lineup of e-bikes when you go to their website.
They've got a full line of bikes, and they've got some unique features on their bikes that are unique to their line only. No one else is using that. So yeah, that's definitely. And Steffi, actually, she was featured in I think it's Moto X, the video game.
Oh, cool.
And she was the first female to start down in Anaheim at Supercross on the starting grid down there. So
just right down the road from here.
Yep. Yeah. So she's definitely an enthusiast, and she's leading the way in North America with the Fantic branding. So let's see how it works out and how well they get some traction here in North America. I'm
excited, and you know, they have a pretty long and rich heritage as like a motocross motorcycle brand. Right? I mean,
trials too. They were more. I know them more for trials because I'm into trials with the Bull Tacos, the Montesses, and Fantic and Beta. Those are all big names in the trials world. If you're into trials motorcycling, you'll know the Fantic name immediately.
It's great to get some perspective. Get out with a friend. We're gonna hop on and we'll take a ride and, you know, do it. Thanks, bud.
All right.
Okay, guys, you're on face cam. I'm gonna hop on the other Fantic and I'm gonna follow Sam. We're gonna head over to a nice little dirt trail. Cool. Looks like the display's still on.
Yeah, mine too.
There we go. Sam's shifting a little hard there. There's no shift detection, so, you know, just ease off a little bit to avoid that mashing sound and get down here and shift. And that's it. I'm topped out at 20 right now. It feels like you could go so much faster, but then it wouldn't be a class 1. Wouldn't be allowed to ride it on the trails in a lot of places, so I get it. It's fine. Really stable too with the 29ers. Remember to shift down, do a multi-shift, get ready to take off, beat Sam off the line. Oh yeah, see ya. You hear him mashing. We're up to 21. Really nice fork. Feels really good. Let's go catch up to Sam. Again, 250 watt nominal on that motor, up to 530 peak. I think it supports you up to 120 RPM pedal strokes. So you can have that faster cadence. A lot of times it's important to shift down when you're mountain biking, when you're transitioning from like a descent to a climb. See that suspension firing there for Sam. Hit the brakes, bud. Yeah, a little bit of dive there. The fork's probably not set up for his weight. I dropped the tire pressure on my bike because I like the comfort. Oh yeah, this is perfect terrain. Very much like cross country around here. Wide, packed, pretty smooth. Bike's very comfortable. Okay, taking a little detour here. Oh boy, it's doing pretty well in the soft stuff.
Awesome.
A little bit more float with those wider tires. You know, we're up in like 22 mile per hour range right now. Feeling pretty great, even on the bumpy stuff, because of that suspension. Beautiful. Okay guys, from here you can see the chain. We've got the narrow wide chainring up front, aluminum, FSA. Pretty cool. You know, you could replace this. It's 36 tooth by default. The chain should stay on pretty well, and then they've built this motor casing, that plastic piece, to maybe help your pant leg slough over this if you're wearing pants riding this thing. Love that they've got a slap guard back here. 11 to 42 teeth in the back, SRAM Apex. It's just it's a good setup all around. It's working really well. Even the sprockets in the rear, they're kind of like punched out, so a little bit lighter weight. High performance stuff here. I'm in the highest level of assist, which is sport. I'm just gonna pedal up and shift through some of the gears. There is no shift detection, but with the Brose motor, it's measuring rear wheel speed, pedal cadence, pedal torque. It's very smooth and dynamic. So if you just ease off even a little bit, you can shift gears without mashing, and I love that. Very nice. Again, the Brose T motor, maybe not quite as high torque consistently as the new S motor. It's a little bit heavier, but still very quiet and smooth. It has a belt drive inside, a carbon belt. And instead of just like gears on gears and making a little bit more noise and feeling like a little bit more vibration, this thing is just so smooth. Yeah, I'm loving it. And that stop felt really nice too. You know, we've got the 180 millimeter Avid rotor up front, 160 in the rear. Your weight shifts forward, and that disc brake, it's great. It's a good setup. Okay guys, we're on pavement because it's smooth and quiet. I was actually able to get up to 23 miles per hour before, even though the motor cuts out at 20. So I'm gonna try to do that again, just, you know, get some speed going and give you perspective on the front suspension and the chainring right here. A lot of fun. You know, it'd be nice to have the trekking fast motor hit 28 miles per hour with this bike. That'd be sweet, but then it'd be class 3 versus class 1 here. So this is allowed on trails right now. The 29er tires feel really comfortable. The suspension is plush, 100 millimeters of travel with the lockout. So you don't have to have bobbing if you're on smooth terrain like we are here. And again, 29ers, it's just lower attack angle, smooth, good rolling momentum. It's a really fun bike to ride. Well, that was awesome, Sam. Thank you so much for hanging out and going on a ride and loaning your bikes for this review. Awesome to see two of these things back to back. For the full written review on this, all the measurements, standover height and everything, and the forums, I'll see you guys back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Please correct me if I got something wrong, provide any feedback or maybe even more history or just whatever in the comments. Have fun out there, ride safe.